Hey everyone, my name is Flame, and welcome to my Gladiator guide. For this episode, we will solely be focusing on Gladiator and putting together loadouts that could rival the gods of Colosseums everywhere. If you want to know more about Gladiator and other heroes, I will be doing guides individually on them in the future. For our first build, we have the Elimination loadout. This specializes in 1v1s, damage output, health regen, but it falls short in anti-ganks and 4v4s. This loadout can also be used in skirmish. I also have playstyle, tactics, and tips on the side here if you would like to look them over. For the first feat we have Bounty Hunter. It gives you health and stamina for every hero you kill. This is extremely useful in 1v1s when you get low health and you beat your opponent by a slim margin. If you execute your opponent as well, you will be getting another health bonus on top of your already Bounty Hunter perk. You won't have to get a health power up to recharge in this case. It's actually beneficial. Also, in any situation, there is no guarantee that you can get a health power up before another person attacks you or you get ganked, because not everyone abides by honor, so being prepared beforehand will keep you alive. For the second feat we have Haymaker. With this, your punches, kicks, and throws now deal damage. This used to be useless when you could get revenge in 1v1s. Thank God that's gone. But now, this isn't the case anymore, and it's extremely viable to use, and it guarantees your zone and your sucker punches to do damage safely. Not to mention if you catch someone in a guard break and throw them, you get additional damage as well. For the third feat we have Neptune's Wrath. When you throw this trident like Neptune himself, you do moderate damage. This feat is debatably the strongest in 1v1s when it comes to adaptability. It can be free aimed for long range snipes. Or if your opponent runs away, it's a good way to make sure they don't escape alive. This feat is also good to do combo mix-ups with. For the fourth feat we have Roar the Crowd. This greatly raises your attack and movement speed. This is a good feat in my opinion. This is good because in 1v1s if they try to run away, or whenever you're on the ropes in a gank scenario, you can use this. And often if you use this if you're in a gank scenario, try to revenge parry, so that way you can use it right after. But in actuality, it is just a self buff, and it gives you a supreme advantage over your opponent. I have the perks as listed coming up here, but before I do that, I will be showing a brief stat chart showing what I did for each equipment piece, so this way you can see how I got these perks in the first place. If you're a beginner watching these guides, you need to know that you only can have a maximum up to 3 perks. The 3 perks I have equipped right now are gray perks. They're common perks. The other ones are a little bit harder to get, but there are plenty of extensive guides online and also on the For Honor Reddit of how to get these perks. Now moving on to the perks themselves, we have Gelstorm, Devourer, and Early Reaper. Now you're probably wondering why I picked these 3 perks. Well, for the first perk we have Gelstorm. What Gelstorm does is upon hero kill you gain 20% movement speed up to 10 seconds. This is a good perk in my opinion because after you kill your opponent, you have quite a few number of situations that you have to prepare for, such as if your teammates go down or if your teammates are currently fighting. So if your teammate is down per se, you have that 20% movement speed for 10 seconds so you can quickly go get that revive. But if no one's down, I would just settle for a buff. For the second perk we have Devourer. What Devourer does is upon execution you get 15% additional health. This is great because it synergizes with your Bounty Hunter. And for your last perk we have Early Reaper. What this does is your first attack will do 30% more damage upon spawn or revive. Meaning this perk is honestly the best in my opinion for Gladiator and Elimination and Skirmish because you can do bonus damage at the beginning. And if you want to do it even safer, just go for a zone or a toe stab to get that guaranteed hit. Now that we got done with the Elimination loadout, let's talk about the second loadout. This loadout is called the Passive Aggressive loadout. This can be used for Dominion or Breach. What this loadout specializes in is 4v4s, survivability, and ganking. But it has a drawback because it doesn't do really good with anti-ganking. This loadout mainly focuses on being a support and team-based player. So if you're not prepared to do that, this is not for you. The feats are as shown. For the first feat we have Deadly. What this does is attacks to deal slightly more damage every 3 seconds. This feat is especially useful for whenever you want a 15% damage increase for every 3 seconds. But note it also has a 3-second cooldown, so be wary. For the second feat we have Righteous Deflection. What this does is parries give you high damage reduction for a short duration. This is a mandatory perk if you're going to be in 4v4 game modes. Trust me, you're going to thank me whenever you get ganked and you have this equipped. For the third feat, we have Boleadoros, if I pronounced that correctly. What this does is it fires a projectile that deals low damage and traps your opponents for a short duration. I find that this is especially useful if you're going to be a team player. Now if you trap that opponent and you have your team there to deal with them, that guy is as good as dead. For the fourth feat, we have Fear itself. What this does is enemies around you have lowered defenses. This is another feat, in my opinion, that can cater around team fights. What I mean by this is, if you have allies near you and you're going into a team fight, popping this feat, it can almost double your chances of your team winning. This is honestly a very underrated feat in my opinion. My biggest tip with mastery of this feat is to not get killed, because you being up, you're automatically a nuisance for the other team. And just like last time, the perks are listed here in the equipment and how much you need in each slot to get it. Again, now on to the perks. For the first one we have Devour. Upon execution you get 15 plus health. This is essential if you want to last long in 4v4 game modes. Also, as a side note, make sure you have your fast executions on hand. Next we have Endurance. When gaining a Rion level, you get 3% stamina cost reduction for a maximum of 4 gains. This is good to have just in general, because having max stamina with Gladiator is good in 1v1s. Lastly we have Headhunter. For each player and bot you execute, your max health increases by 4. This is a max of 4 gains. This is a great perk to have. Of course, only it gives you 16 health overall to your max health, but that slight health increase could be the deciding factor of your fight. So the third and final loadout is my aggressive loadout. This can be used for Dominion and Breach. This loadout specializes in 4v4s and 1v1s, damage output, flexibility, and anti-ganking, but its drawbacks are team synergy. Just like the other ones, I also have some tips here on the side that are really useful. Now getting into the feats. Up first we have Deadly. Like we discussed previously, attacks deal slightly more damage every 3 seconds and has a 3-second cooldown, so your attacks do slightly more damage in general. So you should take in consideration of this when you're ganking or you're getting ganked. Next we have Haymaker, and again like we discussed previously, your punches, kicks, and throws now deal damage. This is incredibly useful for whenever you're ganking another person and they're blocking or parrying everything you're doing, but with Haymaker you can kill someone with sucker punches, zones, or throws if you have no other options. Next we have Neptune's Wrath. With this feat you have a trident that you can throw for moderate damage. I would only use this if I need to finish off someone quickly, and it's also a good anti-gank tool. Finally we have Catapult. This calls a catapult to deal massive damage over an area. This is good for whenever you see a big team fight and you need to call it down to do massive damage and take out the enemy team. It could turn the tides of a team fight really quickly if used correctly. Also, you can use this on point B to clear minions. And yet again, here are the perks and the equipment I used in order to get these perks in the first place. For the perks, we have the same perks similar to the passive-aggressive build, but this one has one perk that is different. So for the first perk we have Devourer. Upon execution you gain an additional 15 plus health. This perk is essential seeing as Gladiator doesn't have good recovery options in the first place. For the second perk we have Endurance. When gaining a Rion level you receive 3% stamina cost reduction, max of 4 gains. There's not much I could say about this perk that hasn't been said already. It's really good for when I'm using it because I like using Gladiator's crowd control tools as much as possible. For the third perk, we have Crush Them, aka the anti-gank perk. What this does is upon hero kill, your next attack does 30% more damage. This is extremely useful in anti-ganks and it also synergizes with Deadly. So that concludes my Gladiator feat / perk guide. I hope you guys enjoy these informative guides, and if you want more, please like and subscribe. If you have any criticisms for the loadouts or any tips for any Gladiator players, leave your comment below. Till we meet again, I'll extinguish for now.